All right, everyone, buckle up, because today we're diving deep into something that's absolutely crucial in the world of cybersecurity: network segmentation.
Yeah, it's one of those topics that you might have heard thrown around, but maybe haven't had a chance to really wrap your head around.
Exactly. I mean, are you getting ready for a big cybersecurity meeting, or are you just curious about what all the fuss is about?
Either way, this deep dive is for you.
Totally. And you know what really caught my eye when I was looking at all the research you sent over?
What's that?
The sheer cost of data breaches these days.
Oh, yeah. It's mind-blowing.
It's not just a minor inconvenience anymore. It's like major financial damage, reputation on the line, the whole 9 yards.
Absolutely. And that's why network segmentation is becoming so critical. It's like one of the most effective ways to mitigate that risk.
Okay, so let's break it down then.
Right.
What exactly are we talking about when we say network segmentation?
You got it. So imagine your network as like this big open house, right?
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Now, with network segmentation, you're essentially dividing that house into smaller, more secure rooms.
I see, like putting up walls and having different levels of access to each room.
Exactly. So instead of everything being wide open, you're creating these separate, isolated segments.
Okay, that makes sense. So then, instead of one giant target for a hacker to aim at, you have all these smaller, contained areas.
Precisely. And that right there is a huge advantage.
Gotcha. So it's like minimizing the blast radius, so to
Yeah.
speak. Even if one part gets hit, the damage is contained.
Yeah, you got it. It shrinks your attack surface dramatically. Say, for example, a hacker gets into one segment.
Uh,
Well, with segmentation, they're locked in there. They can't easily jump to other parts of the network where, say, your most sensitive data is stored.
that's huge. I mean, that could be
Yeah.
the difference between a minor incident and a full-blown catastrophe.
Absolutely. Plus, it gives you so much more control and visibility over your network. You can see who's accessing what, where traffic is flowing, and you can enforce very specific security policies for each segment.
Okay, so it's kind of like a divide and conquer strategy for network security.
Hmm.
But I have to ask, doesn't this make managing the network a lot more complicated? I mean, all those segments, all those different rules.
Yeah, it can seem that way at first. But honestly, the tools and technologies for managing segmented networks have gotten so much better.
Oh, really?
Oh, for sure. Like, take network mapping software, for
Yeah,
example.
okay.
It gives you this visual representation of your entire segmented network. So you can see all the different zones, the connections, the access points, all laid out clearly.
That's handy. So it's not just about building walls, it's about having a clear blueprint of the whole structure.
Exactly. Plus, you've got things like access control lists, which are super powerful for defining who can access what resources. And then there's software-defined networking, or SDN. It's like this next-level stuff where you can automate a lot of the segmentation policies and make changes on the fly.
Okay, so even though it adds complexity, there are ways to manage it effectively. What other benefits are we talking about here?
Well, another big one is performance.
Really?
Yeah. Think about it. When you have all this traffic jamming up a single network, things can get slow and bogged down.
Right, just like rush hour traffic.
Exactly. But with segmentation, you're directing traffic more efficiently. Only the necessary data is flowing between segments, which means less congestion and better performance for critical applications.
So not only is it more secure, it's actually faster and more efficient. I'm liking this more and more.
Right. And here's the kicker. This is where it gets really relevant to today's threat landscape.
Okay, I'm all ears.
We can't just rely on perimeter defenses anymore.
Meaning?
I'm talking about the old school way of thinking, like just focusing on firewalls and trying to keep bad guys out at the front door.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's kind of like building a fortress around your network.
Right, but the problem is attackers are getting smarter. They're using things like phishing attacks, where they trick people into clicking on malicious links or giving up their credentials.
Oh yeah, those are sneaky.
Totally. And once they're inside, if your network is just one big open space, they can move around laterally with ease, like spreading a virus.
But with segmentation, it's like they hit a wall.
Exactly. They're contained within that one segment. It buys you precious time to detect and respond to the threat before it spreads to more critical areas.
Makes sense. It's like a security system with multiple layers of protection, right? Each segment acts as another barrier, another line of defense.
You got it. And speaking of layers, this is where the concept of zero trust comes in, and it's a game changer.
Zero trust. I've definitely been hearing a lot about that lately. It seems like the next big thing in cybersecurity.
It really is. And it's the perfect complement to network segmentation.
Okay, so break it down for me. What's the essence of zero trust?
Think of it this way. Traditional security models were kind of like trust but verify.
Yeah.
Once you were inside the network, you had pretty free reign.
Yeah, like getting past the security checkpoint at the airport. Once you're in, you're good to go.
Right. But with zero trust, it's like never trust, always verify. It means you're constantly validating every user, every device, every request, no matter where they are in the network.
So no more assuming that just because someone is already inside the network, they're automatically trustworthy.
Exactly. You're treating everyone and everything as a potential threat until they prove otherwise.
I see. So even if a hacker manages to sneak past your outer defenses, they're constantly facing scrutiny and challenges as they try to move through the network.
Precisely. And the beauty of it is, zero trust really reinforces network segmentation.
How so?
Well, with segmentation, you've got your network divided up into these secure zones. Zero trust adds another layer of security by enforcing granular access controls within each segment.
Give me an example.
Sure. Let's say you've got a company with a financial department and a marketing department, right?
Right.
Now, with segmentation and zero trust working together, someone in marketing wouldn't be able to access sensitive financial data, even if their computer got hacked.
Oh, I see. Their access would be strictly limited to the marketing segment.
Exactly. And this principle applies across the board. You're basically creating this web of trust boundaries that limits the damage a hacker can do, even if they manage to breach one part of the network.
That's really powerful. It's not just about keeping bad guys out, but about limiting the damage they can do if they do get in.
Exactly. And I've got a real-world example that really brings this home. We recently worked with a manufacturing company, and they had this major security breach. Their entire production line got shut down because a hacker got into their operational technology network, all through a compromised employee laptop.
Wow, that's scary.
Yeah, it was a mess.
Yeah.
But after that incident, they implemented network segmentation and zero trust principles, and the difference was night and day. Their attack surface shrunk considerably, and their incident response time got way faster.
So they went from a company-wide crisis to a much more contained incident. That's pretty impressive.
It is, and that's just one story. There are so many examples out there that show how powerful these principles can be.
Okay, so we've established that network segmentation is super important, especially with all the crazy cyber threats out there today. But I think a lot of people are probably wondering, where do you even begin?
That's a great question. And honestly, the first step is to take a good hard look at your network and figure out what needs the most protection.
Meaning?
Identify your critical assets, your crown jewels, so to speak.
Okay, so like sensitive customer data, financial records, intellectual property, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Those are the things you want to lock down the tightest. Then think about your users. What are their roles and responsibilities?
Right, because not everyone needs access to everything.
Exactly. So you start grouping users based on their needs and their level of trust. And this is where you start building your segments, creating those secure zones with tailored access controls.
So, for example, a guest Wi-Fi network for visitors should be completely isolated from the rest of the company network.
Absolutely. You don't want someone casually browsing the internet to have any chance of stumbling onto your company's financial records or your customer database.
Makes perfect sense. What about all those internet-connected devices that are popping up everywhere these days? I'm talking security cameras, ID scanners, even employees' personal phones. Where do they fit in?
Those need their own dedicated segments too, for sure. They often run outdated software, which makes them easy targets for hackers. So isolating them is crucial. You're minimizing the risk that they become entry points into your core network.
Right, so it's like containing potential vulnerabilities, keeping them away from your most sensitive systems.
Precisely. And that same principle applies to third-party vendors too.
Oh yeah, you've got all sorts of contractors, partners, suppliers accessing your network.
Right. And you want to give them access only to the specific systems and data they need to do their job, nothing more. It's all about minimizing that attack surface.
Okay, so we've built our segmented network, we've got our zero trust security guards in place. Anything else we need to keep in mind?
Yeah, this is super important. You can't just set it and forget it. Ongoing maintenance is key.
What does that involve?
Regular network audits are crucial. You need to be constantly assessing risks, scanning for vulnerabilities, doing penetration testing, making sure all your systems are patched and up to date.
So it's like you're constantly checking your security system, making sure every sensor is working, every lock is secure.
Exactly. It's about being proactive, identifying and mitigating weaknesses before an attacker can exploit them.
And I imagine this is an ongoing process, right? Because the threat landscape is constantly changing and your network is probably evolving too.
Absolutely. Network segmentation isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. It's a journey, not a destination. You need to constantly adapt your approach as new threats emerge and your needs change.
It's not just about technology, it's about mindset too, right?
Absolutely. Embracing zero trust is really a fundamental shift in how we think about security. It's about acknowledging that breaches are inevitable, but also minimizing their impact.
And I think that's a great point for our listeners to take away from this deep dive. Network segmentation isn't just a technical checklist. It's a fundamental shift in how we approach security in today's world.
And it really all boils down to this. If every device and user on your network is a potential point of compromise, how can you use segmentation and zero trust to create a more resilient, more secure environment?
That's a great question for everyone to ponder. We've covered a lot of ground today, but this is really just the tip of the iceberg. We encourage you to keep digging deeper into this topic and see how it applies to your own organization and your own security strategy.
Absolutely. The more you learn about network segmentation and zero trust, the better equipped you'll be to navigate the ever-evolving world of cybersecurity.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you then.